Okay, it looks like we've got a good number of people with us now, so we'll make a start. If you've just joined us, my name is Gavin Kotkin. And welcome today's webinar, ISO certification, real business benefits, presented by Citation Group and in partnership with ISO certification experts. Before we dive into the presentation, I'll just go through a few housekeeping rules. So first of all, if you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them using the QA feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll come back to these at the end of the session. There's no need to wait till the end. You can pop your questions in as we go. And today's session is being recorded. So at the end, you will receive a link if you want to watch it again or share it with anyone else. We've got a strong turnout today, which is great. So thank you for joining us again. And today we'll be looking at what ISO certification really means for your business, beyond just the compliance and getting the certificate. We'll go into the ins and outs of it all, and explore how it can, using a process-based system to support your day-to-day operations and reduce risk and set your business up for sustainable growth. So I'm really glad you've joined us today. And I'd like to welcome Sarah Camigan, who is our guest presenter today. Sarah is from ISO Certification Experts. They are an ISO consulting firm. They assist companies in implementing the requirements to the ISO standards, and Citation Certification provide the independent third-party assessments to issue the ISO certificates. So Sarah brings a lot of technical expertise and commercial insights into ISO certification, working with a number of companies of various sizes and various industries. And she's going to get into the nuts and bolts of it all today. So thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I am a business development manager at Citation. I work with businesses to help them understand what certification is about once your management system is ready to be certified. So if you want to have a chat about that, you're welcome to contact me. But I will now give you a bit of an overview on Citation Group. So Citation Group started off as an employment law firm. We've then branched out into Citation HR, which is an HR software. It comes with an advice line. We also have safety systems for work health and safety. We do ISO certification, obviously. As I mentioned, we have our employment law firm, and we also have Found You software, which offers payroll and managing employees' life cycles. So I will now hand it over to Sarah, who will begin today's webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gavin. I'm Sarah. I'm the business development manager here. I do a lot of strategy sessions with potential clients that either need to get certified or maintain their certification, because we as consultants are able to assist you. So the certifiers, Gavin and Citation Certification, they're the certifiers. They can issue the certificate, but they can't assist you because they can't audit against their own system. It's a conflict of interest. Well, we can help you, we can act on your behalf, but we can't issue the certificate. So there's two parts to getting ISO certified. This is a great slide about us, how wonderful we are, of course. Probably important to note, we're in business for nearly 19 years, since 2007, so we're not quite the new kids on the block. We've done it all. We work with two-man bands, husband and wife businesses to get certified. Some of our clients are also Optus, Origin, and Volvo. So in between, we've seen it all. Mostly, we probably work with small to medium businesses with about 30 to 50 employees, but plenty bigger and plenty smaller. The requirements are the same. Maybe also important to note, we are ourselves certified to all four standards, the main standards we work for. And so we walk the talk. I'm not quite sure. We're a small team with offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Perth. Full-time staff, so there's no contractors in our business. It's 14 of us. So we also got certified to all four standards. We walk the talk. It was a humble experience. I tell you more about that a little bit later. The agenda for today is pretty much What is ISO certification and what does it really mean? How do you get it? How do you start? What is process-based auditing and a process-based management system in comparison to just ticking off the clauses of the standard? And probably how to get certified and start. So the main four standards, the most popular ISO standards, and I think, Gavin, you have the same experience. Those are the four which are asked for the most.
Definitely.
Yeah, so those are the ones we mainly work with. There's a couple of more, but these are also the ones we are ourselves certified to. So there's ISO 9001, which is a quality management system standard. That is kind of the mother of all the standards. If you read the requirements of the standards, you see that across all four, there's a lot of overlap in the first couple of clauses. They're nearly identical because they all refer back to the mother of the standards. That's how we call it. It's not a industry term, but that is kind of the first one which came out, which everyone is referring to. The ISO 9001 2015, the double number you see in all the standards, refers to when that standard was last updated. So before that, it was 9001 2008, I believe. Then ISO 14001 is the environmental standard. That was last updated in 2015. ISO 45001 is the occupational health and safety standard. And that still is, to this day, to my surprise, a bit of confusion because it used to be, before 2008, it was the ASNZ 4801 or something, or the OHSA S 18001. So they have been superseded since 2018. And to this date, I sometimes review tenders for clients or for ourselves where those old standards are referenced. That means maybe an intern has copied an old tender. They're probably not ISO certified themselves because that shouldn't happen. But there's no reference to that standard anymore. It is definitely the ISO 45001 for health and safety, last updated in 2018. And lastly, the ISO 27001, the new kid on the block, or actually the AI one is, but that is not quite as commercial yet. Information security, we all know how important it is. The last update was for good reasons in 2022, and I believe that is also the standard which will be most frequently updated due to, it's like you can't keep up with the internet and everything which comes along with it. However, we all know with multiple data breaches for Optus or Medibank, we've heard it all, how important it is to actually secure your clients or suppliers' data if you need it or not, because that standard is definitely about 3 times more work than all the other standards combined. So if you don't hold really important data and you don't need it, I would always suggest not to go for it. However, we've been through it ourselves. It was a very humble experience. We couldn't get into our own systems for about 2 weeks. And we are professionals. We helped hundreds of clients for the standard, but we've done it ourselves as well. Top tip here, if you are new to it.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we're missing that. People who haven't heard about ISO certification, they often think, oh yeah, we've got policies and procedures and the standard and certification is kind of a fluff in the cloud. They are actually PDFs. You have to purchase from the Standards Australia store. It's not our website, it's not Citation's website. It's just where you have to purchase them. Because if you go for certification, the certifier, Citation, will ask you if you have a licensed version in the business. You have to pay for them. I think the quality standard is 284 or something, Gavin.
That's right.
So
So it is, yes, correct. It's a licensed document which none of us can provide. It needs to be purchased, but that is the full standard in all its glory. So you need to have a copy of it and an understanding of it all.
I'm just wondering, can we copy the links in the chat maybe? Because they're actually links to the Standards Australia store where you can then purchase them if you wanted them. And I reckon it's a very good self-assessment to start off with, because how would you know what you'd have or don't have if you haven't seen the requirements of the standard? So I believe maybe
We're working on that, Sarah,
okay.
but we will send the links after this either way, so people will be able to get copies of the standards. So
Yeah.
yes, that is a great tip. Thank you.
No worries. Now to the benefits across the single standards. Quality is pretty self-explanatory. It's consistent quality how you do business. It's an international best practice, improves traceability and increases customer satisfaction, of course. The environmental is also kind of speaking for themselves. You want to reduce waste. You want to reduce your environmental impact through an aspect and impact assessment, which is a big part of that standard. But of course, it makes sense if you measure what you do, your inputs and outputs, you can avoid, you can improve, and you can identify what has an impact to the business and the environment. ISO 45001 is probably in the construction industry the most talked about standard. There's a lot of other requirements or compliance standards in the industry where you must have a WHS system. And I often have a conversation with clients. They're saying, oh, we've got a WHS system, so we have everything the 45001 has required. And I was like, have you downloaded the standard yet and read through the requirements? Because how would you know that you have everything if you don't know what is required? And it certainly helps having an existing WHS system for the implementation part. However, there's still more to do. Once you read the requirements of the standard, you would know what it is, but the benefits are huge. I mean, of course, don't want your employees or clients to be injured. So preventing that can also prevent you from lawsuits. I mean, no one wants that, let alone reduce downtime from injuries. But you also want to do the right thing and just provide a safer workspace. Another probably benefit of this is, same with the 9001 in certain industries, that if you pay for insurance, and you probably have to, there can be a reduction or you don't get penalized in your insurance premiums if you are certified to the safety standard. Makes sense, because I know that you have a system in place to avoid, to measure, and therefore you are at lower risk and get a better premium in your insurance. So I would definitely check that once you get certified. And the benefit of ISO 27001 is very self-explanatory. We all know how easily systems can hack, what it can cost a business if you lose your data. You agree with that, Gavin? It's pretty much what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We get a lot of requests, and there's obviously a lot of benefits, but the frameworks assist companies in managing either their cybersecurity, their WHS, or the rest of it, because there is a lot going on, and each business is unique, and there's a lot of requirements. But that framework does help them lay it all out and manage it in the best possible way.
Yeah. And across all management system standards, trust is a huge thing. We just had a client received their badge from Citation Certification, put it on their website, added it to their email signature. And I called him for feedback because we have a feedback register. You will have one too once you get certified. And he said it was mind blown how many industry related people called him and said, oh my God, congratulations, you got ISO certified. I can't believe it. How did you do it? Did you feel the benefits? Was it worth it? And he said just the and work he got from it, prospects, leads, just from being certified is huge, as well as stakeholder confidence, improved communications, or everything together with trust. Governance is, of course, quite important. The confidence in legal compliance, for example, I find a lot of small or medium businesses are not really across. And it is, of course, different from state to state with your jurisdiction and legislations. But having a legal register is a huge benefit to the business if you don't have one and actually know what it does and how it works and how to comply to it. Growth is probably the best seller when you're trying to get certified because through continuous improvement and effectiveness and productivity, you save money, you save time, you can have a higher output. But the most noticeable one is probably that you don't miss out on contracts or tenders. So tender RFQ often goes out where it says you must get certified or be certified to one or more of the standards. Quality, the 9001 is the most likely I came across. But often in the construction industry, again, it is mostly quality, safety, and environment. The triple threat is required. And I have to say, before you think you need it, always read the tender very specifically and it has changed a little bit in the last couple of years, but it always used to say you have to work in accordance with a management system. And how do you prove not to work in accordance? I mean, if you have some policies and some documents, you can actually provide them and say, yes, we work in accordance. You don't have to go through the whole system setup, the auditing, the certification. However, if it says you have to be certified, then you actually need to get certified. And I know, for example, Sydney Water here in Sydney, they changed their tender requirements from being in accordance to you must get certified. And they had a lot of solo contractors who weren't certified because it's just a one-man band, but that was their only supplier of work they ever had, which was Sydney Water, and they all had to get certified. So it was quite heartbreaking because it's a lot of work for a one-man band. However, there is, of course, a reason why Sydney Water, Council, Mining, Defence is asking for certification, because they know that you are doing business as to an international best practice.
Yeah, I think just on that, Sarah, it's essentially you're telling the market and reassuring these companies or council or government that you adhere to the ISO standards. You've been independently checked by citation and approved by the ISO regulatory body, so you're a safe bet to award work to.
Yeah. Then benefits, not just of the standards, but about process-based management systems, is of course effectiveness, scalability. If the system is based around your processes, it means it will be adapted by your entire team. It's not just an administrative burden which sits next to what you do on your day-to-day business operation. It should be customized to what you actually do in the business. You can also integrate more than one standard, and it's an integrated management system. As I said before, the standards have overlapping requirements and clauses, which are nearly identical. For example, in all 3 or 4 standards, you have to do an interested party analysis. You might not have done that in the business, but if you want to get certified to all 3 standards, you're not doing 3 interested party analysis. That is ridiculous. Of course, you're just doing one and mentioning all 3 standards. So integrating more than one standard is actually more cost effective than doing them silo one by one, and also maintaining them in auditing and paying for auditors. I mean, either Citation for their surveillance audit or ourselves for the internal audit is way more cost effective if you integrate them, because it can be audited and managed all in one integrated system. Through consistency, you can improve your processes, but value adding is probably one of the biggest things as well. Again, here, I'm based in Sydney, and so is Gavin, as you might know. But I know a few people here who are in the business of buying and selling businesses. And I get a lot of work from them because they said, it's like, look, these guys want to sell their business, and who doesn't? I mean, that is often the goal for all of us, to retire, sell the business as a profit. However, it's very hard to sell if you're not certified to ISO 9001, because the person who wants to buy the business, they're always thinking there's a risk that all the IP and everything that business stands on is in someone's head, in the owner's head. If they leave, the business is worthless. If this business is certified to the as a quality management system, they know that every process, every knowledge, every supplier, every contact is documented, and therefore, they're more confident in buying the business. So the value adding is a huge part here.
We see a lot of requests for 9001 for succession planning when they're
Yeah.
handing over the reins of the business, because it, like you said, it just documents all the information required, so they can sort of pick up and run with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tender requirements and succession planning is probably it's probably where people like get like, oh, there's money involved, and then we can definitely do it. But there's different benefits, of course, to it. But to explain to you what a process-based management system is, it is. Do you want to get that? Oh, yeah, that beautiful slide. It looks a little bit confusing. I'm aware of that. However, if I walk you through it, it might make sense, and you of course get this presentation later as a recording. If you have the PDF and the requirement and clauses of the standard in front of you, you don't want to see the clauses and the requirements and build your system towards that, because then it's not what you actually do. That is not going to be beneficial for your business, and you don't see the benefits. We actually want to reverse engineer and start with your business processes and everything what supports your delivery of your services or products to your customers or clients or whoever. So that is the core of your business and how you do business. Whatever that supports it might be resources, policies, it might be software tools which are integrated in the process, your risk management frameworks, your data, whatever supports that, will go around it. Once you've determined that, you can implement it. And implementing just means that you live by the policies. It's not just enough to say, this is what we should be doing, but then actually not doing it. I mean, it's disconnected, and it won't do your business any favors. Work in accordance with your processes and procedures, so you can improve them, you can check them every year. Control your big business risk, capture the data to analyze for decision making, So of course, if you don't measure, how would you know what you're doing? And whilst you're implementing all this, it will meet the requirements of most of the standards in certain ways, of course. But you also have to, on top of that, meet your organization's requirement. There might be industry requirements, compliance requirements, or clients which require you to do certain things. That is not excluded from it. It is just integrated and can be part of your business processes, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Makes
Little.
sense to me. But that
Yes.
that does explain it very well, in terms of all the requirements, the implementation, and then at the end you are matching it up with what's required in the standard.
Yeah, you don't want to go the other way around because then you build a system around a standard, which is laid out for all sizes of organizations and all industries, where you actually want to improve what you do in business and how you deliver what you do. That's probably the most important takeaway here.
That is process based.
Oh, yes, that is process-based. And whilst we're talking about process-based and risk-based management systems, the practical application of that is probably, as we said, define your processes. You don't want anything happen in your head. And if you leave or if I'm on holidays, what I do in the business is document it. There's a process and a procedure supporting that. What I do. So you don't have the risk that somebody suddenly doesn't know what they're doing. Keeping your records is also important. In small or medium businesses, often if you start, you override a lot of things because it's faster, it's more similar. You will lose a lot of knowledge in that space. So keep your records, label them accordingly. And probably one of the biggest thing in practical application is that everyone in the business knows what they are supposed to do. So I mean, it's common sense, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I know that. However, do your employees know exactly what is expected of them? Do you have clear KPIs and measurements in place? Do you know that they're happy or would like to do something else? We had a bit of restructure a couple of years, and the manager said, okay, can somebody please do that? That has to be done by next week. No one did it because no one thought it was their role. They weren't lazy. They were honestly didn't think it was part of their job description or what are they best at. It could also go the other way around that you say something and then you get two people doing it and you double-handed and just wasted a whole day for someone doing the same thing,
Point.
right? Yeah. Don't we all know that? Systemize a businesses. This is pretty much common sense, all of it. But you would be surprised how many old school businesses, and good on them if it works for them, have everything in a printout or on a clipboard. You will, if you get ISO certified, it's a great idea to actually get everything in the cloud, in softwares, in tools, and stay ahead of the curve in the industry. Be proactive. Maybe subscribe to some newsletters. That's the next one. Thanks, Gavin. Um, Subscribe to some newsletters, know what they're doing, see if you have a spreadsheet and always have to update the spreadsheet or it's very clunky. Is there a software out there which can maybe make that better? I mean, it has to make sense of what you actually do in your business because we did this in our business and we ended up like with 20,000 softwares and it was even more complicated. And we actually put one of our things back into an Excel spreadsheet because it just works best for us if it's linked to the same thing. So it has to work for your business, but don't get stuck of this has always worked, so it will always work. Even with AI, it's a huge thing.
That
Then
a
look at
lot. Sorry.
yeah.
A lot of people, it's designed to work for your own business and the process and requirements of what you do already, and then aligning that with a framework. You don't need to reinvent the wheel and get super complex on what you're doing. And quite often, business will find they have quite a bit there already that needs a bit of fine tuning, right?
Yeah, double handling is definitely the last you want to do. So you want to check what you already have in place and implement controls. That's again about the risk framework work, which can be hugely beneficial if you're measuring and tracking it and know how to avoid it or minimize the risks. Internal audits, we talk about that a little bit later, a lot more. It is assess the effectiveness of your management system. Does it work? Do you do what you say you're doing? But we talk about that a little bit later. And part of the direct requirements of all the standard is not just the internal audit, it's also management review. In the management review, you go through the findings of the internal audit and see what needs to be improved or maybe has to be taken away. but you also set your objective and targets. And that is also a big thing where we often say, if we run a workshop with you, facilitate your management review, we say, okay, where does you and your team want to be next week, 4 weeks, next month, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years from now? And everyone looks at us and says, work less, make more money. It's like, yeah, don't we all want to do that? We understand. However, if you have maybe a spreadsheet or whatever it may, you may use Monday or teamwork where you have milestone, who has to do what to fulfill the goal? So it could be that the salesperson has to hit a certain sales target, but also the management team has at a certain point see what the capability is, capacity is, wrong word, the capacity is, and then hire new. When do you have to purchase new equipment like laptops, phones? Does the marketing team need to work on a new campaign at a certain stage? So if everyone works towards it and can measure their succession rate on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, it has a huge impact on a business if you haven't done so already. Over to you, Gav.
So we'll just take a moment to pause there and let Sarah have a sip of water and
Yes,
catch her breath. So far,
talk a
so
lot.
good. That's been very, very beneficial, Sarah. So thank you. I'll just take this time to thank you all for joining us by giving you an exclusive offer. It's very rare that certification gets discounted. There's a lot that goes into the audits and registration, but we are offering you an exclusive offer for joining us, which is $1,800 off ISO certification. So if you want to understand more about that, you're welcome to scan this QR code. We can have a chat and I can tailor make a proposal for you so you get a better understanding of what it's going to cost to be certified. And obviously that discount will apply. So I'll just take a couple of moments here to allow you to scan that QR code and then we will carry on with the presentation.
Yeah, I think it's also been posted in the chat, I can see.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a link there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
But yeah, of
Okay.
course, that's not it.
So, Sarah,
Now we're talking
back to
about
you.
the audits about the management systems. This is a huge part of getting certified or maintaining your certification. It's a direct requirement of every single standard. If you don't conduct your internal audits, you will run at the risk of losing your certification when your external audit, so your surveillance audit, is coming through. So there's two different parts. Gavin, do you just want to click? Yeah. So the internal audits. That is, you have to conduct one before you go for your certification audit, and you also have to conduct one every year on an ongoing basis to maintain your certification. The important thing here to know is internal is a funny word in the requirements because most small businesses cannot conduct them internally. There's two parts you have to fulfill. Firstly, you have to be deemed competent to audit against one of the standards or more of the standards, saying that if you have a risk managing or quality manager background, there's training you can do on our website if you wanted to be deemed competent. However, the second part is that you need to be impartial to the process you're auditing or to the if you have built the system. Because again, conflict of interest, you can't say, hey, Sarah, tell me what you're doing. Oh, well done, Sarah, signed by Sarah. It's not going to run with a certifier. Hence, it's our bread and butter. For 95% of our clients, we conduct the internal audit every year because we are impartial and we are all deemed competent. We're all certified lead auditors as consultants. We can be impartial. However, you can do it yourself sometimes. You need, but at least two people who are certified in the business. So that person who's auditing cannot audit their own process and then needs someone else to audit them. A couple of our clients have tried it for a few years. That were deemed competent and they were impartial. However, we got them back after a couple of years because it was just too hard work to do it internally. Where the external audit is citation certification.
So we provide the second, third party audits. So we are operate in accordance with the JASAN's requirements. And you might see that a lot on tenders, JASANZ or JASANS,
Jazz hands.
but that's the Joint Accreditation System of Australia, New Zealand. They linked with the IAF or the International Accreditation Forum, but essentially you need to go through what is called a conformity assessment body or a CAB, and that's what citation is. So we follow the process to assess companies' management systems, ensure you're aligning with the framework of the ISO standards. And when you conform, that's when we issue the certificates, and then we manage that JASAN's registration for clients. So at the end of the day, you get an ISO certificate with the JASAN's logo, and your company, once certified, will also appear on the JASAN's portal, where any tier one company or government department, when they're assessing you for work as part of their due diligence, they can cross-check the JASAN's register to ensure that you're certified. So that is where the third-party audits come in, and that is what Citation specializes in across ISO standards and NDIS. But we cannot help with the implementation, which is what Sarah does. It's very important. We have to remain independent. So quite often, companies will come to us looking to get ISO certified. We can absolutely explain to you what the process is and an idea of the cost involves, but you, at the end of the day, you will need a company to help you implement it, and that's what Sarah does.
Yeah. Process-based auditing, we're talking a lot about process-based, and the auditing part, and ideally it should be both ways. Sometimes it is still a bit adaptation needed in the industry. We definitely do process-based auditing, which pretty much means we're not going through the clauses of the standard and say, where is your objective and targets? Where is your risk assessment? And then just tick it off. It is more like interviewing the process owner of your business, what they do to deliver the product or service to your clients. So my process is sales in our business, and I get audited, of course, every year for our internal audit by a colleague of mine. And it's literally every time like this, like, oh, you know what I'm doing. And it's like, well, tell me, Sarah. And I was like, okay, I will share now my screen and show you what I do in Salesforce on a high level, of course, the process I'm going through on a day-to-day business. And then my colleague said to me, it's like, well, in this document, it says you should be doing something else. And I was like, what? It's like, oh, I forgot about that. We figured that was a faster way of doing it. It was a good reminder for me to figure that out, where in another process, I said, oh no, that has been superseded. We're doing it now way faster, and we updated the documents. So it's a really good check to see if everyone knows what they're doing, and whatever I figured out to do faster is then documented. So if I'm on holiday and someone else has to do my job, they can read it up and say, of course, she does it like that. Perfect. Very easy for them to handle it. So that is the benefits of a process-based auditing, where it actually has value to the business and you can improve your operations. Finally, accredited. Yeah, that's you. We pretty much talked about that already. But I tell you, maybe go to the next slide and we talk about the whole ISO ecosystem. So where it all comes together. There's ISO technical committees all over the world. I think the first one was somewhere in Switzerland, but it's committees all over the world. They go together and they develop the ISO standards. So it's the International Organization for Standardization. That's why it's called, it's actually International Standard Organization. It should be the other way around. It's ISO, right?
Yes.
They develop it as part of an international best practice for business and organizations. Now there's your organization in the middle, and they try to implement the standard. Click, click. I'm not driving, so I had to prompt Gavin to click this. So your organization can purchase these standards from the Standards Australia store. You have the PDF at home, and you want to implement one or more ISO standards. So then once you've done that, Gavin is coming in. Maybe not him personally, unless you get really lucky, but to get certified to these standards, you need a conformity assessment body, which is citation certification. They can do the external audit, so the third-party audit, and issue you your certificate. However, you have to be careful. These conformity assessment bodies, and we talked about JASANs, they have to be accredited by JASANs. There it is. JASANs is the monitoring body in the Asia Pacific for all the CABs, for all these certifiers, that they're doing the right thing. If they're not accredited by JASANs, you should not get a certificate from them because it's most likely useless. However, there is, of course, all over the world, different monitoring bodies. They are all part of that International Accreditation Forum. So JASNS is a member of that. So it could be that you might not find someone in a JASNS lookup because you can go on their website and look it up. But they might be certified through an international partner. However, I would say 98% in Australia is accredited by JASNS. Would you say, Gavin?
So also, a lot of the tender documents will specify JASAN's approved certificate.
Yeah, so citation
Um,
certification surely is accredited. So you can actually also a bit of a top tip when you talk about ISO certification. Your organization can only be certified to one of the ISO standards or more of the ISO standards. You can't get accredited. You can be certified. The conformity assessment bodies, they are accredited by JASNs to be able to issue the certificate. So now we as consultants, we kind of in between. So you don't if you're perfectly done and everything ISO related, you probably don't even need us. However, most people do. Consultant, I'm the T, the
mhm.
consultant. We can help your organization where the conformity assessment body are not allowed to. It's a conflict of interest. Again, we hold your hand, we can do your internal audit, we can develop the documentations for you. And probably a good question here is, if you develop the documentations, can you then conduct the internal audit? Because then you're not impartial to the system if you build it, which is quite true. We thankfully have a team of consultants, and on every project we have at least two people, one who implements or built the system with you, and then someone who hasn't seen it and will conduct your internal audit, because we also don't want to be called out by a certifier saying you're not impartial to the system you're auditing. So we work in compliance, we have to do the right thing. Finally, some case studies. I mean, there's a couple of on our website. I know Citation also has quite a few case studies, but to that exact JASN's accredited part, we had a client, or wasn't a client yet, in the metal fabrication industry. They hired a consultant. It was a one-man band. There's a lot of them out there, and I'm not saying that they're all bad. They're fantastic consultants out there, no question. But they promised them to build the system and also issue them a certificate of compliance for ISO 45001 2018. First of all, they didn't talk to them. So I have no idea how they built the system in the first place, because how would we know what your risks are, where your opportunities are, your interested parties? I mean, we need to get, if we assist you, that information out of your head to customize your system. This guy hasn't done it, but they paid him a lot of money for it. Then, once they wanted to work for Steel Compliance Australia, they submitted the certificate as part of their tender or contract requirements. And Steel Compliance Australia said this certificate is not JASN's accredited and therefore worthless. So you can literally print out your own certificate or paint it on a little bit of paper and say, this is your certificate. It has the same effect. Gavin, have you came across any of that?
Definitely, and it's heartbreaking when it does happen because people have invested a lot of time and money thinking they are getting a ISO certificate, and when they submit it or they get through a tender process or client requests and they get rejected, um, they don't fully understand why, and that's sort of where we come in to explain it to them. And unfortunately, even though they might have a bit of work done there, they need to go back to the very beginning of the audit process. And obviously, it takes a bit of time. So, yeah, it affects their business. It affects the contracts that they're working on. It slows everything down. And yeah, we do see it quite a bit. It's like me coming to a company and implementing an ISO standard, and I can be Gavin's ISO consulting, and at the end of the day, I give you Gavin's ISO certificate,
Yeah.
and that's great, but it doesn't carry any
No.
weight. And it's not independent. And yes, people do get burnt, and it can be fixed and it can be changed, but it will cost more money and time.
Yeah. The second case study is talking pretty much about the same one. It's Australian Defence. Same story, I would say. Do you want to click to the next one? I'm not talking about it. I mean, this our case studies on our website. It is about Australian Defence Council, mining, all these things. It's the same story. However, if they at least build the system to a certain standard, you just have to pay double for the certification. I mean, just to pay double. It's still a lot of money for a small business. It's really heartbreaking. But most likely, if somebody is that dodgy, the system they built is also not up to standard. So we onboarded these clients, and they were very thankful because we explained to them what was wrong and how to do it better and why to do it. So there's a few red flags. I wrote a blog post on our website about what to look out for. But most definitely, if they don't talk to you, how would they know what you do in business? And if they're not accredited to JASANS, definitely not. Do not waste your money.
Quite often, if a company or someone says they can do both for you, and that should be a bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how to get started? How does an organization become certified? First step is probably discovery and planning. I mean, take advantages of maybe book a strategy session with me. There's a link on our website. There's a link at the end of this presentation as well. It's no obligation. It's free of charge. I love to chat. You might have noticed I talk a lot and apologize if I talk too fast. Otherwise, compliance can be a little bit dry and boring. But make use of what you can find. On our website, we also have some quick check tools to see if you're ready. So it's free. You can download that on all our standard pages where just say, have you done this? Have you done this? It kind of is exactly what the standard is asking. We just translated it into a more understandable language. Because if you read the standard the first time, it's often, I do understand the words, but I don't know what they mean in context and how to prove that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's laid out to fit internationally everyone. So
Yes.
sometimes it's a bit hard to decipher.
Yeah, there's a lot in interpreting the standards. And I
Yeah.
think that's where your expertise come in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more fluid. It really depends on your business and your industry. Implement the requirements, read through the standards, see what you can do yourself. The more you can do yourself, the less assistance you require, and the more cost effective it will be for hiring us. The cost for certification will be the same. You just want to be sure that you're ready once you go for your certification audit, because otherwise you have to pay for it over and over again. And then, of course, talk to Gavin, talk to the team at Citation Certification, get a quote there, and just make sure again that they are JASNS accredited.
Yeah.
Often we get asked, and that is again, how much does it cost? How long does it take? Of course, it's a little bit like how long is a piece of string? The short answer to get certified, if you're not certified yet, is generally between 3 and 12 months. It totally depends on how many standards you get certified to and which standard. So the 9001 is probably the easiest to obtain, where the 27001, the information security, due to Annex A and 93 controls, will take the longest, guaranteed, just from the implementation part. But it could also be that you have multiple locations. Maybe you have 2,000 staff, you know? Auditing then the process owners, or you might have a lot of processes, or you have to sample through different locations. That can take longer, depending on what you already have in place. So sometimes it is also easier to start from scratch because you don't want to double handle. I mean, ideally you have something which is great and you can just add on to it. Sometimes I talk to people and they're in business since the 80s and they say, we've got everything. We've got all policies, documents, we've got it all. And the reality is that somebody maybe started as a quality manager, created a policy, saved it somewhere in SharePoint or Google Drive, left the business, the next person couldn't find it, creates a policy or documents again, saves them somewhere else. After 50 years, they have a mountain of documents. And I'm not saying that they're bad, but they're certainly not get you certified to any of the ISO standards. I often ask, so when was your risk assessment done the last time? And he says, oh, we've done it in 2013. It's like, yeah, Gavin, I don't think that will get you certified.
Yeah, we often see that too in the other side of our business, with especially around HR, that things aren't up to date with current legislation. There's always a lot of changes. So we help companies around that in terms of staying compliant, but I'm sure you'd see that a lot, that a lot of these policies, they're just outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then no value to the business, right? I mean, you want it to work to what you do and prevent injuries or work downtime or whatever it may be.
absolutely.
Also, yeah, the resourcing you can allocate. So, I mean, we have in our options, we can do it all for you. But again, I don't want you to think, oh, why do you have to talk to us? I thought you built it all for us. It's like, again, we don't know your business. You have to explain to us. We need to get the information out of your head into a documented state. We can't make up what you do in your business. So another red flag, they have to talk to you and you have to allocate resources. And leadership commitment, there's clause 5 of all the standards. It's talking about leadership commitment. And I've seen a sneak peek of the new updated versions of the standard, and that is even more of leadership commitment. So the top management team has to be committed to get certified and lead with excellence and be in it to actually improve the business. If somebody says, oh, here, I'm hiring an intern and they can just get us ISO certified, I doubt it will ever happen. How can an intern make financial decisions or objectives and planning or knows the risk of a business? The top management has to be involved. And yeah, the priority, I mean, how desperately do you need it? Often people ask us, and I think Gavin, you say it's like our tender submission is due in 2 weeks. We have to get certified in the next week. Yeah, don't think that's gonna
I
happen.
get that quite often. I mean, we
Hmm.
can assist companies with what's called a statement of intent, which is a legal letter that says you've be committed to getting ISO certified and you're going through the process to be ready to be audited. Whether that's accepted by a client or by a tender, we can't say, but often we will companies will engage us first, even though they need us last, for that statement of intent.
Yeah, it has more weight from a certification body, but we offer the same once you sign up with us. And because we're in the industry for quite some time, our name is fairly well known. Because the reality is, if your tender submission is due in 2 weeks, the work will actually not start probably until 3 or 4 months down the line. And by that time, we can guarantee that you get certified if you sign up with us. So we can, again, have a confirmation letter that you signed up with us, and we're planning and working with your management team to get you certified by that and that date. And most, I mean, Sydney Water has gotten a lot of my letters, and most council and government bodies will accept these letters. However, definitely Gavin's the citation has a little bit more weight because they're accredited certification bodies. Yeah, and I think that pretty much sums up and ends this long-lasting talk by me and Gavin. We're pretty much good in
Yes.
time.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, so before we go to Q&A, we'll just run this promo again. Again, you can scan that QR code. If you want to understand what the third-party audit process looks like, it is a staged approach, and get a better idea of cost and timing. Happy to have a chat with you. And again, any costs we give you will be discounted by $1,800. So it is quite a big saving in ISO certification, and that can help you with the barrier to entry for it. So yes, feel free to scan that QR code and book in, and we can have a chat, and I can do a tailored-made proposal for you. And again, if you want to speak to Sarah, I can make an introduction there as well. But we do have Sarah's contact details, so you can scan that QR code if you want to have a strategy session with Sarah. And Sarah, do you want to just explain what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to an hour. Often you don't need an hour, especially if you listen to this webinar. However, I can then ask you more specific questions about your organization or your business, your industry, why you want to achieve it. We can figure out together what you have in place, because then I can give you a more customized quote. Because again, if you already have 80%, you might just need a gap analysis to fill the gaps. You might think you have more than you have. It would be good to have a professional just to talk through or maybe answer all your questions. Again, no obligations. It can be overwhelming. We're both quite nice to talk to, I hope. So feel free to either book through the link, or there's also my phone number or my email address, of course. And Gavin has all my details, vice versa.
Thank you. All right, so your questions answered.
We've
Can
got a
see a
couple of good ones there, don't we?
few questions have come through, yes. So let's have a look. Um,
So, shall we do Lisa's here? Can you run the internal audits over the course of the year, or does it need to happen all at once, like a third-party audit would run? Oh yeah, that's probably us.
that
Again,
would be for you.
yes, it is. It is. Sorry, I thought it was. I only saw external. I only thought third party. I take it though. Absolutely, you can. Ideally, in small businesses, or if you're only certified to one standard with 10 employees in one location, the audit will not take longer than a day. If you, for example, get certified initially in January, citation certification will book your surveillance audit around December or January, like 12 months later. Within these 12 months, you have to conduct your internal audit. Our top tip is here, do it halfway through the year. Do it in July or August because you have get more value out of it, checking what you do, adjust everything, and out of the internal audit report, there might be some non-conformances raised or opportunities for improvement, which are not that important, but non-conformances can lead to that you risk of losing your certification. If you've done it then in August, you have 3 or 4 months to actually update your documentation before these certifiers are coming back for their surveillance audit. Out of experience, we have clients there with us for 10 years. Every November, I said to them, book in your internal audit. They're booking it at the end of November, 2 weeks before citation certification are booked in. They get lots of non-conformances raised, and then they throw money at us to fix it. And by then, the system is built. It's not rocket science anymore. It's just updating your documents, but they're running out of time. But you could have done it yourself. So give yourself a bit of time. If you have a more complex business, we can also schedule the internal audits over a couple of days or one after 3 months. You go through that half of the requirements or that half of your processes, and then 3 months later against over that half. Absolutely fine. We are also, Erica's the managing directors, a lead auditor for Transport New South Wales. They have audits every month. So it really depends on your organization or your business or what works best. You can also do 2 half days because, I mean, if you're certified to all three standards, often the audit is about 2 or 3 days, depending on your locations. And that is a big chunk to get out of your business. But not everyone has to be in it at any time. However, you would have an audit schedule and you get lots of support from either Gavin or myself before you go into an audit. I hope that helps.
Thank you. We've got another one here. Do we need to have a separate company do the internal and the final audits? So I think, yeah, separate company for the internal audit and the external audit. Yes, so internal audit would be ISO
Me.
certification experts. A requirement of ISO is that it's not only your documentation, there's a requirement that you do an internal audit as well as a management review meeting. So those are the aspects that Sarah and her team can help you with. And a conformity assessment body, Citation, we provide the external audit to check that everything is conforming, and that's when we can issue the ISO certificate. There is another question here, which obviously we get asked all the time. How much does it cost, Sarah? Yes, so I'll tell you from our side, there is a calculation that needs to be done to determine audit durations. So we look at various things, risk, industry, number of employees, number of locations, and then we
What's in
will work
scope?
it out. Yeah, the scope. So every company is different. And again, through that QR code, when we have a chat, those are the types of questions I'll ask you so I can do an accurate, tailored quote for what ISO certification will cost. And I would assume, Sarah, that's how you work it out yourself too for the implementation side.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you already have 90% of the documentation, so we don't have to do it, it will be way more cost effective. I mean, to give you an idea, it could cost you from, if you just do gap analysis and internal audit, the minimum things you usually have to do, that can start from 6K, around 6K from the consultant space. It can go up to 70K or 100K if you need everything and you're a huge company which needs to get certified to 27,000 a month. So it really depends. It's how long is a piece of string. So please feel free to book a meeting with me or Gavin, and we can definitely give you a customized quote once we know exactly what you do.
Oh, excellent. We have one here from Adrian. We're already ISO certified and have an upcoming recertification in May. We've been doing the internal audits ourselves. Should we arrange to outsource this in the next couple of months so we're prepared for our external audit?
So, I mean, I'm taking business away here from me, but no, you don't. If you know how to audit and you got away with it in the previous years, then the certifier is probably deeming you competent and impartial. Otherwise, they would have brought it up. I mean, there is some very lenient auditors out there, and maybe you have a long-lasting relationship with them, and sometimes they don't bring it up. However, it could always be that you have a new auditor in the next year and they might ask you for it. it is an extra cost to outsource the external audit. So if you've done it yourself, I would say keep on doing it yourself. Just be prepared that maybe a certifier is asking you about you being competent and impartial.
Yeah,
And then you can
so
always call us after. So
I'll also say refer to the audit report. So, Citation does very detailed audit reports, and there may be more information there if it wasn't discussed or mentioned by the auditor. Usually it is, but I know there's a lot going on at that time. So, you can always refer back to the report to have a look. I know our auditors are very contactable, so you can have a chat with them and just clarify a few things. Citation also offer very general courses on internal auditing, and we also link to a company that provides ISO training, and there is courses on internal auditing. But if you're not sure and time is a concern, then I would just go
yeah.
engage Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, one
streamline
more.
it.
One more. Kyla, when you mention location, are you referring to the locations, the business services, locations of where staff are based, or a combination? Good question. Location, we mean in scope where your business is based, not where you're servicing it. However, if you are a project manager and sometimes have to go on site, that site might be sampled, and you can choose which site, doing an external audit for the 45,001 as part of a site inspection. However, for the cost or duration, it is more, do the locations are in scope and do we have to sample through the locations? Because it takes longer and therefore cost more. For example, our business, again, 4 locations, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, and Melbourne. Only our Sydney office is in scope of certification because all our paperwork, our invoicing, contracting, everything has our head office address on it. The other locations are full-time employees, but they are not standalone offices. They're often shared offices, or most of our consultants work from home unless they're on client side and helping them. So there's no value to us of having the other locations certified because we don't need it. As long as the locations all work out of the same system, so we all use the same Google Drive, our system sits in Google Drive, yours can sit somewhere else, then you often don't need to have more locations in scope, even though you do have more locations. However, if you have a warehouse and you go for the 45,001, which is at a different location than your head office, you probably have to include it in the scope because otherwise it is implied that your safety certificate is covering that warehouse while it is not. So would you say that's the same, Gavin?
You've answered that perfectly. I mean, quite often companies will, like you said, will have a lot of remote employees or different addresses, but their management system is run from their head office. And if they happy with having just the head office on the certificate, because we will put an address on the ISO certificate,
Yeah.
then that is the site that we will check. They can always, as businesses change or they grow, if another site gets added in, that will come as part of the annual external audits. We can always do what's called a scope extension or add a site. And then at that point, we can look at that new site or an additional site to increase the list on the ISO certificate and as your management system grows. So it doesn't need to be all done straight away. You can stagger it out if required.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great point, Gavin. And it's 12 o'clock.
Yeah, well done. Thank
How
you so
very
much,
efficient of
Sarah.
us.
That was really, really good info, a lot of insight into the nuts and bolts of what's required in ISO. I'm sorry we didn't get to all your questions, but yeah, feel free to get in touch with us and we're happy to have a chat with you and hopefully we can answer those for you. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us and I hope you have a great day.
So yeah, for me the same. Thanks, Gavin, for having me. Have a good day.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.